For those of you who are under a rock and unfamiliar with what took place, Donald Trump is currently giving a speech about, why we had to bomb Caracas and Caracas, capital of Venezuela. The reality of the matter is we do it because we can. We do it because we want their oil. We do it because we want their gold. We do it because we want to attack. We want to decouple anyone in our backyard, right? From collaborating or cooperating with other countries that we've declared foreign adversaries, specifically China, specifically Russia, specifically Iran. We do it for the love of the game. We do it because we can. And it's really funny when they try to like come up with justifications for it, like as though there's any legalese that justifies this kind of nonsense. But yes, last night we bombed Caracas. After months and months of bombing fishing boats off the coastline of Venezuela, we bombed Caracas and we invaded it militarily, but technically it wasn't a real invasion. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I made a prediction that America was not going to invade Venezuela. And then literally after I ended the stream, I think like approximately an hour after, they did do technically a special military operation, not an invasion, but a special military operation. We'll talk about the distinction in a second. And they arrested Nicolás Maduro. Overall, I know that for a lot of people, their only assessment of the world revolves around like what their least favorite content creator is saying and doing, right? Someone like myself, they'll be like, oh, does this trigger Hasan? Then it's probably a good thing. I just need you to understand, this is not a moment where I'm like, oh my God, triggered or whatever. I'm just frustrated. I'm always frustrated. Nothing is going to change. But you have to understand why I'm frustrated. In your mind, you might assume that I'm frustrated because, oh, I had this like unlimited loyalty to Maduro, right? Or Maduro is a socialist, he's a communist. You're triggered because a communist is getting their comeuppance or whatever. No, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. What I do care about is exactly what I'm saying, okay? As an American taxpayer, I want these taxes to actually fund the infrastructure. I want these taxes to fund our schools. I want these taxes to fund a robust welfare structure that actually helps regular ass Americans like many of you that are sitting in this chat who are excited at the prospect of getting an ownage on a epic own on a triggered libtard or whatever. And I believe that every single action that's taken, every time that we decide to send the military over there to bomb another country so that we can actually directly steal their natural resources, we're actually destabilizing the world pretty significantly. We're causing mass displacement to take place. We're actually making sure that everyone in the global south is constantly kept down. And on top of that, none of those profits are even coming back to your pockets anyway. All of that is directly going into the pockets of the super, super wealthy. But a lot of you, I think, have deluded yourselves into this false fantasy that as long as America is dominating other countries, it's kind of like I'm on that team and I'm dominating them too. You're not. You're actually being dominated pretty aggressively, and you will never really realize it unless you snap out of it, right? There's a reason why many people in the, America First contingency were saying, oh, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump because he's the peace president, right? Kamala Harris is a warmonger. Donald Trump is going to do peace. And obviously, Donald Trump was never going to do peace, as I said over and over again throughout the election cycle. And it was very frustrating because the Democrats didn't actually take a pro-peace position at all. They thought that they could outflank the Republicans on like hyper-patriotism or whatever when they own that space in its entirety. Having said that, this is just pure terrorism. It's immoral. But it's not even pure terrorism that's actually going to line up your pockets. But at least, I guess, in the most pathetic way possible, you can feel like you're powerful because the American government is projecting power. I guess that's it. I guess that's what you can look forward to in your dog shit life. But here is JD Vance, everyone's least favorite vice president, saying, the president offered multiple off-ramps, but was very clear throughout this process. The drug trafficking must stop. I love that one. Hey, drug trafficking. Okay, there you go. I love that. This is cool. It's cool. He's doing the actually all the time. This is it. He is Mr. Actually, which is pretty awesome. He has to actually everything. Donald Trump will just come out and be like, I think Venezuela is woke and gay. That's why I invaded it, because I hate it. And also because I think they stole the election in 2020. And JD Vance has to be like, actually, the reason why we're invading Venezuela is because they're actually a narco trafficking hub, even though there's no evidence to suggest this. And no one is really even trying to fake evidence to make it seem like that's really the case. Bernie's statement, let me hear it. Let's see. He's going to say something about Maduro. Oh, wow. He doesn't, it seems. Donald Trump has once again shown his contempt for the Constitution and the rule of law. The president of the United States does not have the right to unilaterally take this country to war, even against a corrupt and, oh, no, he is saying corrupt and brutal dictator Maduro. Okay. I need you guys to understand something. I don't give a f how dog shit Maduro is. I need to make this very clear. Okay. The moment that you turn around and you go, oh, well, it's a corrupt and, tyrannic rule of Maduro. Brother, we're the American government. Do you understand how much more corrupt and tyrannical we are? Even just by like our unlimited allegiance to Israel, right? Like, what are we talking about here? If we're looking at like, if we're looking at pound for pound, like corruption and tyranny, I mean, the very fact that we just kidnapped the head of a state, that's insane. We just kidnapped the head of a foreign nation state, brother. That's like, you're trying to be like, oh, Maduro is really repressive against like student protesters. He's like killing protesters, right? Like, it's like, oh, wow, I can't believe he's doing that. Is that fucked up? Absolutely. Absolutely. What we do is infinitely worse, even in this argument. And when you bring shit like that up, all you're doing is basically get people to read that and go, okay, if he's actually a corrupt and brutal dictator, why should I feel bad that Donald Trump arrested him? Because the reality of the matter is, why should you feel bad, right? Why should you even remotely feel bad? Why? Because you care about like process? Really? That's the reason why we're against intervention in Venezuela, because process was not applied? It's stupid. And this is exactly why Trump wins on these arguments, right? Because liberals don't ever talk about this from the perspective of like the average American. They never talk about this like, why the fuck are we bombing Venezuela, dude? What? Fix the potholes, Why are we bombing Venezuela? Give us free healthcare. Spend the money on something good, right? Instead of making sure that Exxon generates higher profits next quarter. Like, this is unacceptable. That's all you need to say. You don't need to do this like, oh, Donald Trump is not following the legal process here. That's all. If this is the best we have on the Democratic Party, we're cooked. That's it. The president of the United States does not have the right to unilaterally take this country to war, even against a corrupt and brutal dictator like Maduro. The United States does not have the right, as Trump stated this morning, to run Venezuela. Congress must immediately pass a war powers resolution to end this illegal military operation and reassert its constitutional responsibilities. I mean, the rest of this stuff is good. Trump's attack on Venezuela will make the United States and the world less safe. It's true. This brazen violation of international law gives a green light to any nation on earth that may wish to attack another country to seize their resources, to change their governments. Also true. This horrific logic of force that Putin used to justify his brutal attack on Ukraine, also true. Trump and his administration have often said they want to revive the Monroe Doctrine, claiming that the United States has the right to dominate the affairs of the hemisphere. I mean, we kind of haven't really let go of that principle, if we're being real. Maybe we've just like escalated it a little bit more, but they've spoken openly about controlling Venezuela's oil reserves, the largest in the world. This is rank imperialism. It recalls the darkest chapters of U.S. interventions in Latin America, which have left a terrible legacy. It will and should be condemned by the democratic world. It won't be condemned by the democratic world. It won't be. Europe is comprised of cucks. I'm sorry to say this. I apologize to the European chatters in here that know this reality. I hate to say it. I mean, obviously, we're Americans, right? We're doing the evil here. But the reality of the matter is European leadership is unimaginably cucked. This is funny. If we leave dictators like Maduro unchecked, we will pay the price down the line. Do we really want an egomaniac like that in the Western Hemisphere? I've also heard that Maduro might have actually been hanging out with elite pedophiles. We can't let that stand. What if he begins bombing civilian vessels in our ocean, or invades or abducts our president with no approval from his voters or government? This is scary behavior beyond what we could ever accept. I agree, chatter. That's a good one. I like that. Yeah. What if there was a country in the Western Hemisphere led by a corrupt psychopath who was just bombing civilian ships? Also, that's the joke. The chatter is doing a joke. For those of you who don't understand, this is a joke. He's saying the things that we have done. I don't disagree with your take, but it makes me wonder, do you think there's ever a point where invasion is justifiable? Yes, Israel. It'll never happen, though, because it's a nuclear armed nation state and also an extension of America. It's also pretty funny because, like, even the Trump administration didn't try to present that argument, really. Like, they didn't even do that. They didn't even do that, like, liberal oh, we're actually doing this to save the Venezuelans. Like, they just straight up were like, I want the oil. You have oil, it's mine. And there are still people that are trying to do propaganda after the fact when the administration is not even doing it. The administration is like, we're pirates, you have bounty, we will plunder, we will rape, we will pillage. And there are still people in the chat being like, no, you don't understand actually. They're doing this to save Venezuelan democracy. It's like, who is this for? Is this for yourself? Do you think someone is going to hear your statement in this chat and go, you know what? Even though the American government that I do not trust any longer to have my best interest in mind has openly stated their desire for why they're bombing Venezuela and kidnapping Maduro is actually just to literally rape Venezuela, I'm going to still assume that there is some decent purpose here, some honorable purpose here. At what point will people go, yeah, maybe America doesn't really care about installing democracy elsewhere and simply installing puppet leadership so they can keep unlawfully extracting all the natural resources from the global south. And it won't even like actually return with redistributive policies into the pockets of the average citizen either. It'll just go to a handful of elite pedophiles. It's pretty cool. Nah, keep assuming that the American government is actually doing world police. Yeah, Pam Bondi, indicted for possessions of machine guns. Yeah, it's pretty funny because like Donald Trump last month pardoned an actual cocaine kingpin who was an actual leader of a foreign nation state who actually went through the legal process and it was found to be guilty in trafficking tons of cocaine into the United States of America. So this actually makes the situation even funnier because once again, my GOAT, Donald Trump, he is so good with this, okay? He will literally be like, I'm pardoning every, I don't know, major fraudster while simultaneously putting the beat on every Somali person and assuming that every Somali person is actually defrauding the Medicare system or something. Well, literally openly pardoning people who have stolen billions from like Medicaid or Medicare, right? It's pretty funny. He'll just literally do one thing and then claim that he's actually fighting against that thing by putting the crosshairs on a totally separate enemy. Yeah. None of this is credible when you remember that Trump pardoned former Honduran president and convicted drug trafficker Juan Orlando Hernandez. It was never about drugs. It's U.S. imperialism manifest. And it's kind of funny because Donald Trump is basically saying that too. It's not like he's hiding it. He is kind of open about it, which makes this really funny because like then you see liberals try to defend this somehow on like liberal grounds, America world police grounds and shit like that. And it's like, who is this propaganda for? Is it for you? Do you want to feel comfortable with this kind of thing? Is that why you're like, no, Mr. President? It's kind of, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Alex Jones Kanye West conversation where Kanye West was like, I love Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler invented the microphone. And Alex Jones was like, no, you're not supposed to say it like that. You're supposed to say like, no, you don't hate Jews, right? You don't hate Jews. Like you're just skeptical. You're just skeptical of the globalist elite, right? And Kanye was like, nah, I just hate the Jews and hate. And it's kind of like that with liberals, where it feels to me like the liberals are just basically going, no, you're actually doing this for world police stuff, right? You're doing this because you're the world police and you're installing democracy in Venezuela, right? And the Trump administration is like, nah, not really. I just want the gold. I just want the oil. I want the land. I want to rape and pillage. I'm bored. I want to rape and pillage because I'm bored. And liberals are like, no. You don't understand. The dominoes will fall about the dangers of socialism. Everyone will learn about the dangers of socialism if we actually, dethrone this corrupt autocratic dictator. And Trump still turns around and is like, nah. Like, he might as well openly come out and be like, you guys were talking too much about my best friend who recently passed away, Jeffrey Epstein. And I did this because I really was bored and I didn't want you talking about that no more. And liberals would still be like, actually, this intervention was justifiable because the people of Venezuela have spoken. Do you like Maduro? I don't care. Like, my opinion or my dislike for Maduro is not pertinent to this conversation. Like, do you guys understand why it's not relevant to this conversation? Like, my own personal criticisms of Maduro or whatever is not relevant to this conversation. It's kind of like the but Hamas equation, right? Israel be doing a genocide and people will be like, well, what about your criticisms of Hamas? It's like, bro, they're being genocided. You know what I mean? It's like, what are your opinions on Maduro? I don't know. He shouldn't be kidnapped. How about that? That's my opinion on Maduro. That's the only one that matters. There's no reason to be like, I don't like the way that he repressed a protest in his country, or I don't like the way he mismanaged the Venezuelan currency. Like, what difference does that make? Do you think that plays a role in why America kidnapped them? No. So it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. And that's why when people say like, well, actually, Venezuelans are celebrating, it's like, well, okay, it still doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. They're already spinning the narrative that all Venezuelans are happy. Yeah, I mean, they did the spin in Iraq as well. I mean, that's why that's where they will welcome us as liberators come from. That's unironically where it comes from. Do you see what I mean? The they will welcome us as liberators is a statement from Iraq. That was at a time when the American government was actively trying to propagandize a lot better than this one certainly is doing. It was trying to touch on the cultural attitudes of, you know, the white savior complex that liberals have. Yeah, Donald Rumsfeld said it. George W. Bush said it. And they also showed the toppling of the statue of Saddam, right? That was like a big deal. They were like, see, this is working so well. This is working so good. And of course, what ended up happening in the aftermath of that was obviously 20 years of rape, pillage, death, destruction, a torture regime, and just awful. Just overall pain and a power vacuum that came from that led to the creation of ISIS as well, and numerous other issues such as that one that still plague even the Western world and certainly is a massive issue in the Middle East. So I guess like the only aspect of this that I think is more redeemable in comparison to George W. Bush is that at least they didn't do a shock and awe and full-blown invasion. And instead they did a kidnapping, I guess, if you want to look at it from like the lesser of two evils perspective. But of course, for me, how about no evil, right? Okay, why'd you get frustrated whenever people mention that Maduro's a dictator? Because it just gives righteous cause to Trump. Because Americans hear that and they go, okay, so why should I care that a dictator got kidnapped? That's why. That's number one. Number two, as far as like the shit that Maduro has done, right? Okay, our leadership, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, they've done a metric ton worse shit than Maduro, right? Does that mean that they get assassinated, they get kidnapped? Like, what are we talking about? Obviously, that will never happen because America's the hegemonic superpower. But the notion that, like, those guys are dictators, but we have process is idiotic. Actually, police brutality is a great example of this. When people do that, when they talk about, like, well, look at the criminal, you know, look at the track record of this guy. That's the reason why he got shot. Everybody understands, like, you're saying that because you're giving credence to why this person got shot, right? And that's the same principle here as well. Not to say that like Maduro is good or whatever, but it's just not relevant to the conversation. You know, if Maduro is bad, then Donald Trump is worse by a million times, including because of what he just did to a leader of a foreign nation. It's not even comparable, you know? It's not even on the same playing field. Do you think this ended with one strike and kidnapping, which are illegal, or it will be indeed another Iraq war? I don't know. I don't think so, but we shall see because it's entirely dependent on what the transition looks like. Reuters reports that Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro was captured in an operation involving U.S. Special Forces, including Delta Force, with assistance from the CIA source inside Maduro's inner circle and cooperation from members of the Venezuelan military, according to U.S. officials and people briefed on the matter. A source close to Venezuela's opposition described the move as an inside job. Yeah, that's definitely believable. New from the Post. Delta Force units established a pattern of life on Maduro in advance of the operation, mapping out his location and daily moves. According to a person familiar, a CIA covert operations unit identified where he and his wife were staying. The U.S. deployed 2 Army Delta Force units, one from the Middle East and one from North Africa in recent weeks, and those forces had established a pattern of life on Maduro in advance of the operation, mapping out his location and daily movements. According to a person familiar with their deployment, Delta Force, known within the clandestine community as Combat Applications Group, is among the Pentagon's most elite units tasked with executing high-stakes and secretive missions, including hostage rescue and kill and capture missions. The Trump administration relied on elite Delta Force and CIA Covert Actions Unit for the operation to seize Nicolás Maduro in a highly secretive snatch-and-grab mission to force the Venezuelan leader from power, according to multiple people familiar with the deployments. The CIA identified the location where Maduro and his wife were, and Delta Force soldiers sent by President Donald Trump to the Caribbean and conducted the raid. The CIA also provided support to the air, sea, and land operations, according to people familiar with the mission. Those CIA units, among the U.S. government's most secretive, specialize in irregular warfare and other covert action and have regularly worked with both the Army's Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 over the 2 decades of battling Islamist militants. groups in the Middle East, South Asia, and Africa. This doesn't actually give us any more detail into whether or not this is an inside job, but I do think that it's something smells weird about it, considering there is no pushback, whatsoever. Yeah, a CIA source in Maduro's inner circle helped U.S. forces track his movements in his final days right up until his capture, according to people familiar with the matter. The people who were briefed on the operation also said members of the Venezuelan military cooperated with the United States to secure Maduro's arrest, but declined to provide details. One person close to Venezuela's opposition, who asked not to be named, described Maduro's removal as an inside job aided by the country's military. Republican U.S. Senator Mike Lee said U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had told him Maduro would stand trial on criminal charges in the United States and that no further action was anticipated inside of Venezuela.
Have seen what happened. I mean, I watched it literally like I was watching a television show. And if you would have seen the speed, the violence, they say that, the speed, the violence, they use that term. It was an amazing thing.
Legal Heritage, thank you for the 20 gifted.
Job that these people did. There's nobody else could have done anything like it.
You're at Mar-a-Lago right now. How were you able to watch this?
Well, we watched it from a room.
Seemingly on Twitter, actually. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, that's right. The Situation Room, photos came out of it, and they just had Twitter tabs open in the background. That's where we're at. Isn't that wonderful? They're just like us. They were straight up looking at OSINT Twitter. Like, I was in bed doing the same thing that these assholes were doing. Like, they were looking at that classic Arma footage that they play always with like the tracers trying to take out one of the Warthog, and they were like, oh my god, I thought they didn't have any air defenses. What's going on?
That was unbelievable what they did there, and this is something that, I don't know, it's amazing. And to have a few injuries but no death on our side is really amazing.
Mr. President, critics will say that strong action can risk escalation, but history has shown us that weakness can truly invite chaos. And this military operation clearly sends a message to our adversaries around the world, China, Iran, Russia, that we are no longer the weak administration that we had for 4 years under former President Biden, who tolerated narco-terrorism.
Like, think about this being a good reason to arrest a foreign leader, like kidnap a foreign leader. Oh, we felt kind of insecure. Sorry. We felt kind of insecure for a little bit when Joe Brandon was in charge. And so we had to flex a little bit, And
you had to see this in real time. You had to see this, the professionalism and the bravery, everything about it. And you almost couldn't hold them back. It was like they wanted to go so badly. And most people would have said, I'll take a pass. I know that Charlie would have wanted to go because Charlie's a very brave person. But I know a lot of other people would have said, I think I'll pass on this one. Let's watch it on television.
Trump was repeatedly lying here, probably for psychological effect. The Russia story was fake too. VP Rodriguez is speaking now, and she keeps referring to Maduro as the president. She's demanding the immediate release of Maduro and Cilia Flores. Rodriguez mentions that Maduro left instructions that if anything happened to him, the people should take to the streets and all the popular power should be activated in their places to defend the national independence and sovereignty, which was savagely attacked today. Yeah, the VP situation is confusing to me. I don't really understand it. General Kane is talking about how amazing the operation was. I'm mostly tuning it out because he does mention that he used over 150 aircraft for the kidnapping operation. Kane, there were multiple self-defense engagements during the withdrawal from Caracas. Incredible way of rephrasing this attack on a sovereign country. Yeah, they put themselves... Our soldiers tactically put themselves in a kinetic engagement in a self-defense style situation on foreign soil in a nation's capital. Self-defense? The do you mean self-defense? You kidnapped the leader of a foreign nation. What are you talking about? Self-defense. Trump, we are going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure. It's going to be paid by the oil companies, and they will be reimbursed for what they're doing. Again, openly admitting it. Trump, we are not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to. We had boots on the ground last night. We had to make sure this country is run properly. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We are going to run the country right. Trump on Gustavo Petro, he's making cocaine and they're sending it to the United States. He has to watch his ass. Trump, we are going to be selling large amounts of Venezuelan oil to other countries. You can't stop talking about how they're straight up taking over Venezuela. Trump keeps claiming that Delcy Rodriguez was sworn in as president of Venezuela and that she's in contact with Rubio. Haven't seen this reported yet. Trump, Cuba is going to be something that we are going to end up talking about. Cuba is a failing nation. Rubio steps up. Cuba is a disaster. If I lived in Havana, I'd be concerned. And the press conference was concluded. It's pretty crazy because it's basically everything we said, like everything I've been saying in the build up to this incident about like what the real reasons are as to why the administration is doing this. It's kind of an interesting predicament because back in the day, I had to duke it out with liberals a lot when I would be like, Venezuela is not about democracy. Venezuela, if I were to say like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you know, this kind of situation is not about democracy. It's about, you know, stealing the resources, specifically oil, but gold as well. Like all this liberals would argue seriously about how like, no, you're wrong. It's not about that. It's actually about democracy, all this stuff. And what's crazy is nowadays it's just the Trump administration is openly stating it, openly saying like, nope, we're doing it specifically for oil. They're just giving the game away. We're doing regime change for oil. We're doing regime change for oil. They say it over and over again. And yet seemingly there are still pliant people or people that are manipulating themselves, I guess, that want to believe in an alternative goal here, an alternative ambition here, that still make it seem as though there is a separate reason for why this is happening. And that reason, as a matter of fact, is not oil, it's just democracy. Yeah, there's also this from Wall Street Journal. Wall Street is already at the ready post Nicolás Maduro capture by the U.S. forces. About 20 business leaders, including those from some of the top hedge funds and asset managers, are preparing to go on a March trip to Venezuela to look at investment opportunities there, including energy and infrastructure. Awesome. It's like they're just giving it out for free. It's such a strange world to live in where for years and years, people like myself, anti-imperialists with my worldview, with my position, had to go through this weird song and dance where we had to like literally explain to people like, guys, they're lying to you when they try to create a just cause for why they're doing this sort of engagement. They're lying to you. The real goal is plunder. The real goal is plunder. What? Hasan, you are 10 million% right, but I don't think it makes your takes any less right to listen to Venezuelans for a second. I am talking not about the best interest of Venezuelans. I'm talking about American intervention, okay? If you want to have a conversation about that, you can go somewhere else. I'm an American citizen. It's my tax dollars. I'm selfish. I'm an American patriot. How about that for standpoint theory? Ain't nobody gives a about the Venezuelans. This is my point. Donald Trump is not sitting around talking about how he's liberating Venezuelans. He's literally saying he's liberating the wallets, the government of Venezuela's coffers from the burden of having to do the resource extraction and actually sell it on their own. Shut the up. It's so crazy, bro. You got motherfuckers doing propaganda for the administration when the administration is not doing the propaganda. Every day, Donald Trump literally goes, every Venezuelan on U.S. soil is a rapist, drug seller, a drug salesman, okay? The CEO of doing rape and drugs. We must deport every Venezuelan expat. Every Venezuelan refugee on American soil is a rapist, drug-dealing, baby decapitating monster that will inevitably find their way into CCOT. He goes on Fox, and that's what he says on the phone every morning. And then he turns around and says, also, I am going to rape the land of Venezuela. I'm going to pillage it. I'm going to rape and pillage. I'm going to rape and pillage. I love the oil. I want to shove the oil up my ass. I can't live without the heavy crude of Venezuela. It's beautiful oil, and it's mine now. And there are still morons in the chat being like, excuse me, can you take a deep breath and cover the perspective of Venezuelans who are delivering a deep sigh of relief? I don't care, and neither does Trump. Nobody cares. Shut the fuck up. God damn. What is this argument, dude? It's so stupid. It's the same with Iraq. It's the same with Libya. It's the same with Syria. It's the same over and over again. This time it'll be different. Why don't you listen to the people that are saying they're doing a deep sigh of relief? Why don't you listen to the people that actually love what Donald Trump did? I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck, okay? I don't care. I don't care what your perspective is. If you're going to tell me that, like, this time the narcissistic pedophile that is trying to extract as many super profits for his pedophilic elite is actually doing a good thing in this circumstance, even though all the previous narcissistic pedophiles that were doing the exact same We're actually doing it in the wrong way, but this time it's actually good. I'm sorry. I'm going to treat you like the moron that you actually are. What the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? And I know there's going to be hella clips off of this. Oh my God, there's going to be so many motherfuckers who are like, excuse me, I know that America obviously wants to destabilize an entire region as it has done historically under the Monroe Doctrine that they're relitigating at this very moment. But have you considered what my personal perspective is? I didn't like Maduro, and it's actually awesome that it will be an American puppet. It'll be awesome that it's an American puppet that actually leads the country inevitably that will rape and pillage the land. It's going to be good. Meanwhile, Trump is not even saying that. That's the funniest part. Trump is not even, he literally just keeps saying, I'm doing this for oil. I'm doing this for plunder. I'm doing this for plunder and oil. I'm doing this for oil and nothing but oil, 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 oil. And still there's motherfuckers in the chat being like, well, hold on. The question I have is this. Why are you doing propaganda for Donald Trump in a way where he's not even doing propaganda? Like, it makes no sense. You're arguing a position that the Trump administration is not even taking. Like, they dropped it. They didn't even felt the need to even say those words. And you're still like, nope.
As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, if you are even in any way, shape, or form, remotely like a liberal person or invested in like human rights or whatever, why in the ever-loving fuck would you be like, yeah, this psychopath is actually doing this for this? I'm going to imagine an alternative reality where this psychopath is openly stating what his desires are, but I'm going to assume he's actually doing this to liberate me. Right after he called me a rapist drug dealer who needs to be sent to a slave labor colony in El Salvador. Like, at that point, if you still can't understand that this isn't for you, okay, then I guess, have fun in CCOT, all right? Like, what do you want me to say? I'll still fight to make sure you don't go there. I'll be on the streets, but good luck, I guess. Chuck Schumer finally gets around to commenting on Venezuela, saying the administration has assured me 3 separate times that it was not pursuing regime change or taking military action in Venezuela. Oh, no, not Chuck. You fell for it again? Oh, come on. And for the record, if you believe that Chuck is being sincere here when he says, "Oh shucks, I got duped again," you are the bigger dupe. He loves this straight up, he loves it. Today, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer released the following statement after President Trump launched military action against Venezuela without congressional authorization in his announcement that he plans for the U.S. to run Venezuela. Let me be clear, Nicolás Maduro is an illegitimate dictator, but launching military action without congressional authorization and without a credible plan for what comes next is reckless. He's like, bro, why won't you let me in on it? I want a piece. He's like, come on. I just wanted a piece of the action, and you wouldn't even let me in on it. The administration has assured me 3 separate times that it was not pursuing regime change or taking military action in Venezuela. Clearly, they are not being straight with Americans. He's mad that he couldn't put a Calci bed in. He's like, why won't the administration tell me ahead of time that they're going to do this stuff? I was going to put a poly market bed in, and it's really fucked up that you didn't do that. The idea that Trump plans to now run Venezuela should strike fear in the hearts of all Americans. The American people have seen this before and paid the devastating price. Yeah, we were the ones who suffered from our endless occupation of Iraq. I mean, it's true, we did, but like also at the same time, I feel like there was some other people suffering there too, but who knows? What do I know? The f do I know? Also, Chuck Schumer supported the Iraq war, didn't he? And he's kind of supporting Venezuela too. So what are we talking about? Hey, last time I supported this exact same thing that's going on, but in the Middle East, that was really bad. And this time, it's also not very good, but I'm still kind of supporting it. The administration must brief Congress immediately on its objectives and its plan to prevent a humanitarian and geopolitical disaster that plunges us into another endless war, or one that trades one corrupt dictator for another. To distract from skyrocketing costs Americans face in the historic cover-up of the Epstein files, Donald Trump is attempting to throw Americans into more international chaos and uncertainty. We're so collectively desensitized to the U.S. empire that we're not even registering the absurdity. The U.S., a country where guns are sold at Walmart, has just kidnapped the president of a sovereign nation and head of army to charge him with possession of machine guns with the intent to distribute to a fake cartel that doesn't exist, that we invented whole cloth. Like, that's how you know the justification has already completely calcified in the American administrations, because the Cartel de la Roses thing, or Cartel of the Suns, was one of those attempts in, like, I think, like the early 2000s that they just shelved, right? Because sometimes the American State Department will like come up with fake reasons whenever they want to justify intervention. Yeah, Cartel de los Soles, not roses, my bad. And that was like a fake justification, which doesn't even exist. A Spanish law professor and author spent several years trying to track down evidence of Cartel de los Soles existence and its connection to the Venezuelan government. This was his conclusion in 2020. The Trump administration, the DEA, the Department of Justice, and the intelligence services are the architects of the myth of the Cartel of the Suns. In fact, they are the main and only source that feeds this myth by leaking information from anonymous sources without verification. At the same time, they are the main actor of political destabilization of Venezuela with their unrestricted support of the self-proclaimed interim president and encouraging all kinds of adventurers, including terrorist invasions. If the unfolding events is not stopped, it could lead to devastating consequences for the region. Let's hope that this piece accomplishes the generation of a serious debate about the non-existent existence of the Cartel of the Suns, and that the organizations, media institutions, and people directly identified in the study as biased and not very rigorous will respond, offering arguments and evidence that prove them right, and that I, in the best case scenario, am wrong, or in the worst, am a mental moron. However, I have a sense that the aforementioned will respond, as always, with silence, hiding in the fact that they possess the hegemonic media and therefore have dominion over the truth, which exempts them from giving any kind of reason to my allegations. In fact, replying to me would mean exposing themselves, and that would blur the halo of truth in which they disguise themselves, and which is nothing more than an outright lie. This is the American version of, or the previous relitigation of the WMDs, but not even like as, like they didn't even go as hard defending this bullshit this time around. Yeah, now is a good time to remember that the Cartel de los Soles doesn't exist, and it isn't even being determined by the U.S. government's own assessment, that Maduro has nothing to do with Trendaragua. The charges are bullshit, and that's why they had to add machine gun conspiracy charges. It's pretty crazy. Here's Graham Plattner's statement from Maduro's kidnapping. The government of the United States of America has illegally invaded a foreign country and kidnapped its leader. This is what happened in Venezuela today. This is not foreign policy. It's international gangsterism. There are going to be a lot of people on, frankly, both sides of the aisle trying to convince us that this was somehow justified. It isn't. Our behavior against Venezuela over the last few months has been illegal. None of it has been authorized by Congress. None of it is being done in accordance with international law. Just 1 month ago, there was a vote in the Senate that would have required congressional input on any military action against Venezuela. It got voted down 49-51 because Susan Collins cast the deciding vote against a resolution that would have blocked President Trump's illegal actions today. So in the coming weeks and months, wherever this goes, just understand that this is a failure of the American political system. It's an absolute failure of our government and another crack in our fragile democracy. We are allowing an out-of-control rogue government to invade countries and kidnap their leaders. And Republicans in the House and Senate are doing nothing to stop it. Holy f***, this is, God damn it. Why did it have to be Graham Plattner? I mean, this is near perfect. Actually, not even near perfect. I'm gonna be honest. This is a perfect statement. This is a perfect statement. From Iraq to Venezuela, you can count on Susan Collins to continue to enable illegal foreign wars, and we need to all turn out in opposition to this egregious failure and our government to stop it. We have a lot of administration deploying American military to kidnap foreign leaders and a Senate that refuses to do anything about it. This may soon breed chaos on a scale we can only imagine. At least the last time the United States went to war over oil, they sent the Secretary of State to lie to lawmakers and sought congressional approval first. This is not the behavior of a government that cares about the American people. This is the Trump administration lashing out with military force because Republicans are afraid that its domestic failures are going to result in political failure in the 2026 midterms. Yeah, not only that, not only is it a perfect statement, none of this like, well, Maduro is a bad guy and I hate him and he is worthy of being owned or whatever. But also on top of that, it just straight up ties it back to Susan Collins. It ties it back to like the power of your vote, because it directly just says unconditionally that the false framing that the Republicans are half-heartedly leading into is just false. And it's good that people are saying it.
A little over 48 hours into 2026, around 2 a.m. Caracas.
What the f***?
Fireworks had lit up the night sky for New Year. But now the place illuminated by a series of never-before-seen U.S. strikes on military bases and airports. Military helicopters, including Chinooks, a US Special Forces operation caught on camera phone. Their mission, capture the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife Celia Flores. Chances are the couple were inside one of these helicopters. The US was forcibly deposing a Latin American leader for the first time in this way in over a quarter of a century.
It's honestly incredible that they didn't have any handheld anti-air ready. They could have destroyed those choppers. I know. Which leads me to believe that there is more to the story than we think, specifically with respect to like who gets to be in charge once the exchange of power takes place. Because not even manpads, really. I mean, not even manpads. We're talking about Chinooks. Like, dude, those things literally already explode on their own. Like, no one was shooting at the helicopters. Like, what are we doing? There's a video of a helicopter on top of a building. And it's just standing there. It's just hovering over a building as they're like getting out of the helicopter. As they're like, are you kidding me? You're not even gonna shoot at that with like small arms, you know? I don't know. I think there's something suspicious about it. Like they showed it. I think they showed some of the helicopters flying. Like there's no way that they didn't have any manpads. They didn't have any rifles. There are stories of people taking out helicopters with like a bolt action rifle. Can't blame me for taking the Reuters word on it. Yeah, I talked about it. The Reuters literally said that sources revealed that like I didn't come up with this on my own off of Twitter. I was showing you the Reuters coverage is right here. That also is like suspicious because like Trump was also talking about the VP. Like Trump was making it seem like he was in contact with the VP or something. And it was strange because like, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to like invite suspicion? You know, they were saying that she was in contact with Marco Rubio, which I think is odd.